How does this make you faster? All right, so let's compare Convirgance to MyBatis. All right, in this example, we're going to pull from the customer table, and we first need a file that describes the customer table and a query, or any queries that we want set up. In this case, we have a get all. That's all we need. But we have to have this whole description of the table. So then we have the MyBatis config XML where we line up our customer XML, and the rest of it I don't have a huge problem with. That's just database connection information, so that's fine. But the mappers below, right, we have to have a whole other file just to list them. Then we have to have our POJO. And yeah, this I kept getting smaller as I tried to fit more on the page. This is just getters and setters, right? I mean, this is what we have to do. Now, some of you might be saying, Lombok, hold on, we'll get there. So then we need an interface that will represent the mapper. And, we had the one query, get all, that it will implement. And, MyBatis will generate this for us. Cool, it finally did something. So now we have a program that attempts to export CSV to a file. So we have to load the MyBatis config, run our get all query, and now we're going to use Apache Commons CSV printer, which has no idea about what the structure of the data is because it doesn't know our objects, right? So we have to print out the header ourselves, and then we have, this gets me, we have to marshal the data from the customer object into an array just so we can print it out. What is the point of using an ORM if we're just marshaling the data all over again? Fun fact for you, the mapper code that generated by MyBatis is pretty much the only thing you have to do in Convergence. And even that's debatable because the query is in the XML file. So let's look at the Convergence example. It's this, you've seen it before. Big difference is we're using Convergence JDBC here. This is a neat API where it analyzes the URL and will actually go to Maven Central and pull the driver automatically. So you don't even have to have the driver installed, it'll get it for you. And then it'll get you a data source so that you can query the data. And we query customer, we return the records, you get it by now. But if you pay attention, right, everything was hard-coded in the MyBatis example. Everything here is just strings. We could practically set this up with passing these in from the command line. The URL, the username, password, the query, the output file. We could just send this configuration in and get any table we want. No additional configuration required. So this is 9 lines of source versus 87 lines of source in NCSS form so that we can compare them. And that's a huge decrease. On top of that, 1 class versus 3 classes, it's 89% less code. We're not even counting the XML files at this point. It's 66% fewer classes. So this is just simpler and easier to do at the end of the day. And by the way, if anyone remembers their Mythical Man Month, every line of code has a cost. There's only so many lines of code that engineers can produce, debugged lines of code they can produce per day. Yes, they can sprint and do a few hundred lines of code, but then they're debugging that over time. It averages out to a very small number, like 10 to 20 lines per day. So fewer lines of code means greater productivity.